the Nigerian government, alongside the United Nations Food Programme, launched a cash and food assistance program in 3 urban COVID-19 hotspots of Abuja, Kano, and Lagos. The government has released 2,000 metric tons of food from its strategic grain reserves, while valued at $1 million, while the World Food Programme is releasing $3 million to provide cash assistance. Working with the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, the World Food Programme is expanding its program in Nigeria for the first time to reach towns and cities where millions of people are threatened with hunger and malnutrition due to the socioeconomic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Distribution of cash and food began in Kano State on Monday. In the coming weeks and months, the WFP will continue to work with the governments of Abuja and Lagos to support the most vulnerable families. With me to discuss the initiative and its wider implications, it's Lael, Head of Communications Advocacy and Marketing at the UN Food Programme at Nigeria. Good afternoon to you, Chi. Thank you so much for joining us. So what led to the choice of Kano, Abuja, and Lagos to kick off this support program?
Good afternoon, Rotus, and thank you so much for having me on the show. So as you recall, in March, Kano, Lagos, and Abuja were among the 3 locations to record some of the highest numbers of positive COVID-19 cases. And very early on, they went into lockdown. And what we saw as a result is rising unemployment, shattered livelihoods, and increasing hunger. For families, this meant that it was much, much harder for them to put food on their plates, and child malnutrition was on the rise. So in response, WFP and the government, we partnered together to ensure that we provide food assistance to the most vulnerable people in some of these COVID-19 urban hotspots.
All right, great stuff. So, poverty in Nigeria is widespread across the 36 states. Any plans for your program to expand beyond those initial 3?
Good question. So what we are planning to do is continue working with the government. We'll be supporting Nigeria to strengthen its social protection mechanisms so that the government can lead and respond to people who need support. And that's better and that's more sustainable in the long run for Nigeria.
All right, great stuff. You've also moved into urban areas, I guess, to distribute the cash and food assistance. What are the rural areas?
So urban areas have been impacted the most. If you think about these lockdowns, when they went into effect around March, it was our bus drivers or the people who sell recharge cards on the end of the road, or those who earn a daily wage from hawking or from hairdressing. Those people have been the worst affected. From March, they were unable to go to work, which means that they were unable to earn any food to feed themselves and their families. In urban areas, people still had access to their farmlands and still had access to food. So our response is really focused for the first time on these urban hotspots that have been worst affected by COVID-19. And what we've quickly learned is that this pandemic has slowly changed from a health crisis into a hunger crisis that WFP and other partners in Nigeria are responding to.
Great stuff. Yeah, the Bureau of Statistics released a report looking at households and how they've been affected. And yes, you are correct as far as the hunger crisis is concerned. Now, the press, your announcement mentions an injection of $3 million into local communities. Is that all, cash and food, or is there anything else attached to that?
It's $3 million of cash directly into people's bank accounts or onto prepaid top-up cards, which you can see on the screen now. So what we did is identify the most vulnerable people in some of these communities. Those who have bank accounts, they receive the cash directly from WFP. Those who don't have bank accounts, they weren't left behind. We provided them with debit cards that are loaded with the money, and they can go and spend the cash at any store or withdraw it from any ATM.
Great stuff. Was there any, so and that's your second part of your answer there, where you're talking about people that don't have bank accounts, speaks to the Central Bank of Nigeria's financial inclusion plans. They're looking at 95%, I think by 2024 or 2023. I think we're at 60% now. Was there any discussion with the government to use this as an opportunity to collect data on the recipients of this assistance?
Yes. So these prepaid top-up cards also enable people to open bank accounts immediately after. So we're supporting the government's plan to increase financial inclusion. We have also been on the ground in the field identifying every single beneficiary who received assistance. And these are people who are not on the National Social Register. And so all of this data will be handed over to the government of Nigeria, thus expanding the social register with new details of everybody who received assistance during COVID-19.
Fantastic. And on the other side, extending that further, is this, I mean, as your program goes further, are there going to be more electronic ways of getting the funds over to folks?
That's the plan. At WFP, we're always trying to be more innovative, working with the banks, working with Nigeria's private sector. We already have a huge operation in the Northeast where we're providing cash and food assistance to 1.8 million people. And the people who receive cash, many of them receive it on what we call a scope card. It's a card that enables them to go to local stores and to make purchases using the WFP card. So yes, we are here for WFP 2.0, here for financial inclusion.
Great stuff. I want to give you a quote. I'm sure you've heard it already. Give a person a fish and they eat for a day, but if you teach them to fish, they eat for a lifetime. Any plans to substitute food and cash for maybe job training programs, or is it just such an emergency that just had to be food and cash at this point?
In the urban areas, definitely it's about providing people with cash and food and making sure that it was done in a COVID smart way. So now this cash is being provided while the lockdowns are being lifted. And so while we're providing the cash and food to meet people's immediate needs, we hope that during the easing of the lockdowns, people will be able to gradually return to work and feed themselves tomorrow.
All right. Finally, the World Bank announced in a new report out yesterday that 150 million more people will fall into extreme poverty in 2021 as a result of COVID-19. Do you feel like you're swimming against the tide here? How do you combat these extra numbers that are coming in, for poverty numbers, that is?
The numbers are quite alarming, but WFP has a mandate of zero hunger, which we are really taking forward, but we know that we can't achieve zero hunger alone. That's why we are working with the government, and now we formed a coalition of government, private sector and development agencies called the Zero Hunger Roundtable. We have identified that there are many pathways to achieving zero hunger in Nigeria, and so collectively we are working towards achieving that goal.
Fantastic stuff. Lael, Head of Communications Advocacy and Marketing at the U.N Food Programme, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insights, and thank you so much for assisting those impacted families.